Mic check. What's up? This is James from Forest Park DIY, where independent musicians learn how to manage their own damn careers. This is a listener-focused podcast where I cover topics and questions submitted by you. So please send me an email at james@forestparkdiy and let me know what your biggest challenges are as a DIY musician, and we'll cover them on the program. Before we get started, I want to encourage you to join the Forest Park DIY community by signing up for our weekly newsletter where I share tips and strategies to help indie musicians escape that painful and confusing situation of being stuck so that they can start feeling confident and inspired about the map that'll get them from where they are now to where they want to be. Just go to forestparkdiy.com/newsletter to sign up. And as an added bonus, within 5 minutes of joining us, I'll send you my single release promo content calendar, a free mini course on how to effectively promote your upcoming single. And it gives you all the exact details on what to post and on which platforms, so that the music that you poured so much of yourself into will actually have a chance of reaching an audience. This week, when I asked the community what their biggest challenges are as indie musicians, I received this answer. Maybe it's just the fact that I've been lacking on my production. Rather than producing and writing, I've been practicing guitar. While that's good, I want to move and try to create more. All right, well, to me it sounds like you're having a tough time getting out of your own way. And before I get into this, I just want to ask the listeners, can you relate to this? You know, you've got something really important that you need to do, but something always comes up and you find the days slipping away and you feel like you've been cranking, you've been busy, but yet you're not getting any closer to your big goals. To those of you that can relate to that, just know you're not alone. In fact, people submit this challenge in one form or another a lot, to the point where it was just an obvious choice for a topic for the podcast. So to help out, I've created a 3-step process to get out of your own way so that you can do the things that matter most. Step number 1, understanding the psychology that's driving your behavior and use it to your advantage. And in order to fully understand this first step, I want to paraphrase a concept that I've learned from my year of working with a music career coach. And it's this: human behavior is guided by a need to avoid pain and or gain pleasure. So think about it. Avoiding pain or gaining pleasure influences literally everything you do, from cleaning your apartment to the foods you eat, to your exercise routine, your alcohol consumption, to whether or not you hit up that label to pitch your new EP. You'll either do these things because they might bring you pleasure in the future, or you might do things because they will help you avoid pain. You might choose to pitch your music to that label because you know that being added to their roster will be an absolute game changer for you. In other words, bring you pleasure. Now, alternatively, you might choose to not pitch your music to that label because the possibility of being ignored or being rejected is painful. So bringing us back to this specific submission, what's happening is a classic example of procrastination through productivity. In other words, avoiding the primary goals by way of busying yourself with the secondary tasks. In circumstances where we avoid primary goals by busying ourselves with secondary activities, there's usually something painful associated with the primary goal. The avoidance feels pleasurable because you're doing something else that's productive. You get that dopamine hit. You're doing something good, so life is okay. But the secondary action, in fact, doesn't get you any closer to the ultimate goal. And speaking from personal experience, when I put off writing, recording, releasing, assuming that's what we're considering to be our primary goal, it's usually because I'm nervous about something. Like the song is going to get less than 1,000 streams on Spotify, and that'll be really embarrassing. Or I'll feel like shit after putting so much work into the music, but not receiving any traction from my efforts. Or people will flat out just tell me that they don't like it. When I say step 1 is to understand the psychology that's driving your behavior and to use it to your advantage, what I'm really saying is I'm encouraging you to recognize that the pain you feel from avoiding your primary goal is greater than the pleasure you get from the procrastination. A year of not creating new music is going to suck a whole lot more than the temporary relief you get from procrastinating by practicing guitar. And I'm not saying not to practice the guitar, but I mean, honestly, you're probably fucking good enough at the guitar already. What you need to do is get down to work and write a song. And just disclaimer, this is to everybody in general, to myself, to the world in general. You most likely have everything that you need to write a good song within you right now. And if you don't, work on it. But there's no better way to improve at your songwriting than actually doing it. All right, so if the first step of getting out of your own way and on a path to doing what matters most is understanding the psychology that's driving your behavior and using it to your advantage, the second step is to identify the specifics of your primary goal. So if your primary goal is to produce more music, the specifics in this case would be to decide how much music are you going to release and in what time frame. So how much material do you want to get out this year? A 10-song full length, 12 monthly singles, 2 4-song EPs? You need to decide where you want to be and in how much time. So think about it. If you decided you wanted to have a great vacation, but you never set a location, how stoked are you going to be after you spend hours driving around with no destination? There's literally no way that you're going to achieve your goal if you don't spell it out specifically beforehand. What is it, and in what time frame are you going to achieve it? And when you've decided where you want to get to and in how much time, you got to commit to it. And if you really want to get the commitment in stone, it helps to announce it to your friends, your followers, your family. By declaring that intention, it'll actually motivate you to do it. All right, so you've completed steps 1 and 2. You recognize that the pain you feel from avoiding your primary goals is greater than the pleasure of the procrastination. And you've identified the specifics of your primary goals. So the final step is to retroactively draw a map of how to go from where you are right now to where you want to be. In deciding the specifics of your goal, you've created this map with a starting point and an ending point. So based on the time frame that you've set for yourself, you need to draw the stops along the way. In other words, the mini goals that'll ultimately lead you to the end destination. So if your goal is to release 10 singles this year, plan out your release dates so that they span that time frame, and for each one of them, move backwards and figure out how much time do you need for promo, how much time do you need to record each track, etc. This strategy, it'll keep you on track for actually achieving your primary goal. And you can avoid the pain of having vague ambitions of doing something great, but waking up 9 months from now realizing that you actually haven't made any progress at all. I know I've been there, and it hurts. It sucks. And furthermore, this is a really helpful way to catch yourself when you're using secondary tasks to avoid your primary goals. The approaching deadlines make it easy to see that you're being sidetracked. Boiled down, the 3 steps to getting out of your own way so that you can do the things that matter most are: number 1, recognize that the pain you feel from avoiding your primary goal is greater than the pleasure of the procrastination. Step 2 is to identify the specifics of your primary goals, in other words, the quantity and the time frame. And then step 3 is to retroactively draw a map of how to go from where you are right now to where you want to be. And if you're struggling with this same situation, I hope it helps you create a map that leads you from where you are right now to where you want to go. And I know being an indie musician is tough, but there are thousands of success stories out there, and with some planning, some hard work, maybe a little guidance, you can be one of those success stories too. I'd love to know what your big goals are. Feel free to share them with me by sending me an email at james@forestparkdiy.com. And while you're there, let me know what some of your biggest challenges are as well. I might choose it as a topic for the next podcast. All right, well, that's it for today. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you next time. Go out there, be productive, make music, be heard. Heyo! Thanks for listening. This was another production of the DIY Music Management Podcast, where independent musicians learn how to manage their own damn careers. As a listener-focused podcast, I'd love for you to send me an email to tell me what your biggest challenges are as a DIY musician. You can reach me at james@forestparkdiy. You can join the Forest Park DIY community by signing up for our weekly newsletter, where I share tips and strategies to help indie musicians feel confident and inspired about creating a map that'll get them from where they are right now to where they want to be. Just go to forestparkdiy.com/newsletter to sign up.